Hello and welcome again to another episode on Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. That's how we get the word out about what we do. Our guest today, Brian, is in way sunnier country than I am right now. Brian is in the electrical business, power quality to be more exact. I'll get him to explain it. He's been doing it for 30 years, so a long time, family guy, just wants to give back and help and educate. He's got his own podcast and stuff with his educational, so make sure to check that out. We'll have all those links in the show notes. But thanks for being on, Brian.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here. A little bit nervous, but I'm sure we can work
We'll be
through this.
fine. We'll be fine.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, let's go back to, you mentioned before, like, interesting. How did you get into what you do and what exactly do you do?
Oh, sure. I'll get into how I got here first, and then I can wrap it up a little bit with what exactly we do. Like anybody, I was out of college, climbing the corporate ladder and working for somebody else. And there gets to be a point in your mid 30s where you hit a fork in the road, and you have to decide: do I want to continue working for somebody else, climbing the corporate ladder, and you can see all these people above you on the ladder that you'll be climbing up with, or do you want to go out on your own? And I really wanted to go out on my own and work for myself. And I was looking out my office window and I saw all of these utility lines. And at the time, this was in the late 1990s. I know I'm dating myself a little bit, but at the time, computer technology was new. And they were comparing it to the gold rush of the 1800s. And I kept thinking, how can I get into technology? What what area of technology could I start to work in? I wasn't a computer programmer, and by the way, that was like the best career path in the business back then, was being a code writer or computer programmer. And I thought, well, maybe I could sell some computer equipment. And I realized there's already giant companies selling computer equipment. This was when laptops were just starting to come out and there was no internet. Well, after looking out at my office and I could see all these power lines and thinking about the gold rush of the 1800s, I was reminded of a story of a person that was uh, successful in the gold rush of the 1800s, but he wasn't mining for gold. He was actually selling blue jeans to the miners. His name was Levi Strauss. And so when I saw these power lines, it kind of connected to me that, hey, the electricity or power is the blue jeans to the what we call the information age, right? Or computer technology. So I thought, well, how can I get into power? And I started a company called Power Protection Products. And our purpose was to protect the power, to keep the power on so that the computers can work and we can use the technology. And so I started selling what we called small little backup power systems. And that led me into a variety of other kinds of electrical equipment. To now we apply products and expertise and services for most of the large data center companies, large industrial automation companies, uh, any kind of automated process. What we found through the years is the more that we've replaced people with processes and robotics and computers, the more we need to keep that power on all the time. And that's our business, is keeping the power on all the time, particularly in harsh electrical environments, in industrial applications.
So have you been pretty busy? Right now, when we're recording this, there was a pretty good storm going on in the States.
Uh,
How has that been affected? I'm curious.
uh, we won't see an immediate response from that, but what we will see is some of the factories or data centers or distribution facilities that have been automated will come back around and harden their facilities so it doesn't happen again. So they'll put in some equipment or clean some power or put in some backup power so that the next time it comes around, they'll be better prepared. And usually it takes a power outage or a catastrophic event before they realize, oh, wait, I better do something about this.
And that's what you do, right? Is that where you come in, where you help companies get so that they're not going out? Is that basically what I'm understanding?
It's not just without power. We're kind of like a doctor for your electrical system. And so we have to, before we can write a prescription to clean up the power, we have to usually do a diagnosis and find out exactly what is causing the problems with the power. You put a bunch of robots in one spot and you're going to start to have power problems. And we can clean those power problems up with different types of equipment.
Okay, so you see what the power problems are and then help fix them. So what are
Yeah.
some of the obstacles you, I mean, think back 30 years. What are some
Yeah.
of the obstacles you had to overcome in order to build a successful business?
That's a good question. Um, and I appreciate you asking that. I think the biggest obstacle I had to overcome was my mindset. In fact, I started this business in my mid 30s and I didn't I didn't really have I really didn't have the mindset to listen to my own voice until my mid 40s. So I was doing a lot of things that people told me to do and going where people wanted me to go, and building the business based on, let's just say, connections and opportunity, and not really working on what my voice wanted, and that was strategy and development. And so the biggest obstacle probably was my mindset.
Interesting. How did you shift it?
Uh, well, I remember specifically, I was driving down a road on my way to my office. I had a nice office, a great company. I'd been in business for probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years, 15, 10, 12 years.
Okay.
And I realized that, you know what I'm doing? I'm doing pretty good. I got a handle on this. This is working out. And believe it or not, excuse me, my kids were very instrumental in this. They would ask me questions. Dad, what if Dad, you keep telling me that I could be anything I want to be. How come you're not doing it?
They
Dad,
would
how come
ask
you're
you
not?
that.
Yeah, Dad, how come you're not going nationwide? Dad, how come you're just working in this one office? How come you don't have more offices? And
Wow.
coming from the back seat of the Volvo, from those little kids, really,
Wow.
believe it or not, propelled me forward.
I bet. How old were your kids at that time? That's amazing.
They were little. They were in elementary school, probably fifth grade, maybe third grade. I have two kids, so one was in third, one was in sixth, and it was very very enlightening to hear this
Where did
coming from
like
your
that's
children.
so cool. I love this. This is I mean, know where we go here. So this is fun. What do you think made them like say it? Like I think, Ed Milet talks about this a lot too, is like, our kids are watching us
Yeah,
and they'll be like, well, why aren't you mom and dad? But it's like hypothetical. I've never heard an actual kid actually say that. So why do you
yeah.
think they felt like they had enough, like you obviously did a good enough job, you and your wife must have, to raise them to have a voice, to
Well,
be able to even
yeah.
say that to you.
Well, I appreciate that, but I remember one time they got in the car, carpooling, and I asked. Of course, you always ask him, "What would you do at school today?" And he said he got his career assessment back, and
This is like
and
elementary school.
yeah, right,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And I said, "Oh, that's cool. What did they say you're going to be when you grow up?" And my son said, "Dad, that said I should be a history teacher." And he says, "Dad, I hate history." And he did hate history, of course, and uh, so I had to, like, calm him down and walk him off the ledge a little bit. And
Interesting.
he said, Dad, what do you think I should do when I grow up? And, there's a lot of pressure for kids, even today, to do some sort of assessment and figure out a career path, right?
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, look, his name was Ben, is Ben. I said, look, Ben, I said, you don't have to pick a career. I said, think of you as a surfer out on the ocean and you're sitting on a surfboard and there's other surfers around you. There's other surfboards around you. And everybody's just waiting for the wave that they want to ride. And I said, my best advice to you is to, get out there on the surfboard, look around, talk to other people, and pick the wave you want to ride and then paddle like hell. And that's what kind of prompted them into pushing me is to ride in the wave, right? Ride in the wave and paddle like hell. And so it just kind of explored into that.
That's so cool. And so, I mean, you were doing good. You had a
Yeah,
good, like your
doing
business was
fine.
like 10 years is, it was good. Why did they think that you needed more? Like, what do you think? Because kids are very, they see things that we don't necessarily see as adults. What did they see to realize that you weren't reaching your full potential and to call you out on it?
I
Like,
think they see acceleration. They're accelerating in their learning, they're accelerating in their sports. And here they got a dad picking them up after school, taking them home, right? And
doing the same thing. How was work today, Dad? It's
yeah,
good. Okay.
yeah, yeah, I
Wow.
think so. So,
Wow, that's
they
so
were, they
crazy.
were, yeah, they were a good part of that. That's for sure.
That's huge. And so, if anyone's listening to this and you got kids, I just love this because your kids are watching you, and very few kids will say what your kids said, but they're thinking it. And,
Sure.
are you reaching your full potential? Are you actually becoming that person? Are you getting uncomfortable? Really good questions to ask yourself. I love that. So you started to obviously introspect and went, wow, okay, this is, which is really cool too, by the way, because some parents would be like, well, what do my kids know? And I'm just doing my thing. But you were like, okay. And so then you start change and adapt. And what were some of the struggles you went through in order to, I guess, to level up and get to that next level?
Yeah, when it comes to business expansion, probably the hardest thing to do is to hire more people in other areas that you're not in and sign leases for office space. Back then, everybody had offices, but you know, the opening warehouses and office space and hiring people, it can be very scary, right? Well, after a while, you don't get afraid of it anymore. You understand that you have a system that you have faith and confidence in yourself and the system that you're working, and
Hmm.
it kind of leads you towards that.
What were some, that's really good. I like that. And so as you went into building, because this is something I think a lot of people go through and, yeah, I'm just curious. You talked about hiring and stuff. Do you have a lot of people that you hired over the years that they didn't take the journey with you? Let's put it that way. This is how John Maxwell texted. Not everyone's going to take the journey with you, but people that
Yeah.
you were and like were really believed in, attached to, started to grow, and then they just kind of like went else. And how did you, I don't know if there was like quote heartbreak. That might be more of a
Right.
female thing here. But like, how did you go through some of that, and did you go through some of it, and how would you help someone? Because I myself am going through some of that, where you just think someone's a person, and they're not. And you're like, oh man, like it kind of hurts.
Mm,
And so how
yeah.
did you deal with some of that?
Well, I think that the first thing is that I really want my employees to feel like they've won the lottery when they come to work for us. We offer them everything that we could possibly offer them. And sure, there are times when somebody will pay them more or take an employee from us. And I remember one guy worked for me, came out of the Navy, worked for me for a couple of years, and he got a better job offer for some medical device company. And he was literally in tears when he was telling me that he was leaving and he was going to work for this other company. And it was because of a lot more money, right? And I wish him nothing but the best. I want them to be successful. We all have an opportunity to reach for the brass ring on the merry-go-round, right? And he can take that and go. And if he wants to come back some other time, great. There's always is, there's always going to be people that just want to do one job and work and not grow from there. And we look for people that are self-motivated and always motivated, right? We look for this unicorn that has a lot of trust and a lot of performance in them.
And then just take time to find them and give them the best options and see what happens. That's awesome. So you're building it. Where are we headed now in the next 5 to 10 years? What's our goal? I mean, 30 years in, where are we going now?
I think that we have a staff meeting every Monday, and I think that my vision and plans for the company scare the heck out of my senior staff, because we are trying to go national. And right now we're kind of dominant in the central time zone of the country, but we are working and growing quite a bit to go to the East Coast and the West Coast.
Cool. So going Nashville is kind of the next thing. What are some things, like, I know we talked before that there's been some things in your life that have kind of been catalysts to get where you're at, stuff like that. What are some of the things that you would love to share with our listeners that have kind of got you where you're at, or you've worked through, or whatever it is?
Well, I'll tell you what a lot of what we do is through my coaching with our Ready Syndicate. I might be getting into too much detail here, but I remember going to First Form at one of those summits, and I remember seeing the posters on the wall at First Form, and they weren't posters of Usain Bolt, or they weren't posters of famous athletes. They were posters of like firemen and paraplegics and people with special needs participating in some sort of sport. And I thought that this is really about making heroes out of people that aren't heroes yet. And that kind of changed my purpose into making heroes, and especially in our company. And this is one of the scary parts of our staff meeting. Sometimes we'll go to a factory, very large factory, very automated. And if you drive around to the back of the factory and you go into, you'll see a couple dumpsters, you'll see an old pickup truck and a door by the loading docks. And you go in there and there'll be an electric room or an electrical maintenance shop. And in that shop is some person that has probably been there for 30 years or 40 years, or it could be some new kid that doesn't know what's going on yet, because that other guy retired. And they have this electrical system that's loaded up with technology that's causing problems, and they don't know how to fix it. Our job is to make that person what we call a company hero. We want him to be a hero for his company, and we want to help him become a hero. And that's probably been, one of the secrets to our success is our quest to make other people company heroes. And that's what we try to do.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Very cool. So now you're going forward, and what do your kids do now? I'm curious. Are they adults yet? How old are your kids?
Well, I have 2 kids, and believe it or not, they, you could hope that they do better than you just a little bit. And unfortunately for me, my kids have done better than me by a lot. My son is a general surgeon, and the one that I told him to ride the surfboard, right? My daughter is a principal at probably one of the top 5 business consulting firms in the country. So
you've done a good job. Grandkids?
One on the way.
One on the way. First one on the way. That's exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, they're doing fine. They don't need their dad anymore.
They saw you reach for yours, and they started reaching for theirs. But that's what kids do. That's really cool.
Could be. I want to share with you another aspect of our business, and that you might find interesting, and this is related to karma. as we were coming up and growing our business, we would support some charitable organizations now and then. Somebody's baseball team or soccer team, they needed a few $100s for a poster or whatever. We always would donate a little bit of money, usually for some employee's kid that was playing in a league or something like that. But as we were, consistently more successful, we were looking for something else. We were very comfortable with giving out a little bit of money now and then, but we really wanted to get behind some sort of cause, and we didn't know what sort of cause that would be. And we wanted to change, and we wanted to get attached to some other charity in a bigger way, but we didn't know how, or we didn't know what to do. And I was having cocktails on a Friday night with a friend of mine who happened to be part of the Special Olympics. And he said, Brian, we're having a fundraiser next week for Special Olympics. And would your company be willing to donate some money for this fundraiser? And I said, well, tell me about what the fundraiser is. And it was basically two bars that were almost next to each other in a shopping center. And they were going to put tables and chairs and a band in the parking lot and try to raise money to send the Nebraska Special Olympics team to nationals. And, every 4 years, each state sends a team to nationals, just like the other Olympics. And I didn't know how much to donate. I'm thinking maybe $300 or $400 or something like that. And that's probably what he wanted me to donate. And I said, I'll tell you what, I don't know how much we're going to donate. I said, but why don't we do it like this? If we get an order in that just falls in our lap that we weren't working on, that we weren't expecting, if we get an unexpected order between now and next Friday, we'll split the profits with you. And he said, hey, that's great. I didn't know what this was going to be like, or how much this, we've never done anything like this, right? So on our Monday morning staff meeting, I was talking to our senior staff and I said, look, we're going to try something new here. We're going to donate some money to the Special Olympics, but I don't know how much money. And here's what's going to determine how much money we're going to do. I want you guys to all look for an order that just falls in your lap. Not something you had worked on before, not something that was coming in anyway, but an order out of the blue. And we're going to call it a good karma order. If we get a good karma order, we're going to split half the profits and give it to the Nebraska Special Olympics. And so all week, the employees were bringing the orders, and I would have to, and I had a couple of ground rules. One was it was something we hadn't worked on before, and the other is it had to be in by Friday night. Okay, and it had to have a dead stop. And so all week long, they were bringing me things and saying, hey, what about this? And I said, when did you quote it? And they'd say, yeah, we quoted it, 2 months ago. Okay, didn't qualify. So nothing was happening.
They're trying to make it happen, though. It's cool.
Oh yeah, they want to see me. They want to see me hurt, right? Yeah, they're trying to. Everybody was trying to make it happen, and it really wasn't happening. And then on Thursday afternoon, about 4 o'clock, I was packing up my computer, getting ready to go. I was taking Friday off, going to a lake, and so Thursday afternoon, about 4 o'clock, turning off my laptop, packing up my computers, kind of forgot about the donation thing. I thought, well, we'll just donate some money at the fundraiser or whatever. And I get a phone call out of the blue from this factory way up in northeast South Dakota, at the very tip of South Dakota, and in a place that we'd never been to before. And he talked to me a little bit about what was going on in his factory. He had a very large factory, by the way. It was a dairy factory, And after our conversation, he says, well, I definitely need to have you guys come and support us. And he goes, I want you to come and do some power quality studies for us. We have, I think it was 6 electrical service entrances. And he goes, I want you to do 6 power quality studies for us. How much is that going to be? So I start calculating it on my calculator because my computer's already in my backpack, and I got one foot out the door. And I said, well, it's going to be about $24,000 for us to come up and do that study. And these were his exact words. He said, I have that kind of money in my budget. Consider this an order. Make it happen. And I'm like, oh no, here we go again, right? This thing is really going to bite me. And so we figured we were going to spend about $4,000 to make this happen. And so the profits was 20,000. And so I was going to have to split $10,000 is going to go to the Nebraska Special Olympics, right? And so this happened Thursday night, and I'm thinking about it. Is this really real? Is this guy really going to happen? And the order comes in on Friday, and I'm driving to the lake, and my friend who started the fundraiser called me and said, Brian, I got this fundraiser tonight. How much are you going to donate? And I said, look, I'm sorry, Mike, I'm not going to be there. But let me tell you what happened. We did get an order in, and it came in at the last minute, and we're going to have to split some of these profits with you from this order. I said, how much were you planning on raising at this fundraiser between the 2 bars? And he goes, well, he said, we're really hoping to get about $3,000. He goes, maybe a little more than that would be better, but my goal is to raise $3,000 between the donations and this fundraiser. And I said, well, I got some news for you. We did get an order, and we're going to be donating $10,000 to the Nebraska Special Olympics. And, of course, it's a very emotional thing, and it was way more money than, we anticipated. But here's the kicker. He goes, can I tell the other people at the fundraiser that you're doing this? And I go, well, I really don't want my name or company name out there. I'd rather kind of keep this anonymous if we could. I said, but I tell you what, you can tell them the concept and the story of how if a good karma order comes your way, that you could split the profits with the Special Olympics. And he ended up telling that story at the fundraiser between the band sets and stuff, and more businesses started piling on and saying, oh, you know what, that's a great idea. If I get an order next week, I'll share the profits with you. And the thing just kind of took off, and karma took over, and we sent the Nebraska Special Olympics team to nationals in style.
Wow, I love that. That makes me emotional. That's so cool. And it's not you had to give it, you got to. I mean, that's so like an act of God or universe, whatever people want to believe in. Like just came in. I mean, you made money too. You made 10,000. That was unexpected, which is kind of cool. Probably wouldn't have come otherwise, but that's what happened. Oh man, that is so cool.
You know what? After that one order from that one company, we've probably got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of orders out of them since then. The karma just continues.
Wow, that is incredible. I love that. That is a really cool story. Well, in wrapping up, I always have 3 final questions, and then anything we didn't touch on that you think would be impactful for our listeners.
Okay.
So first and final question, I think this one's good because you actually talked about it before. What's one sentence you could say that could help someone find their purpose?
I would say, wait for the wave you want to ride and then paddle like hell.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
What is a favorite quote and why?
Oh, yeah, it's a good question. I actually had this on my screensaver for years. It's a quote from, there's a book out there called Jesus CEO by Laura Beth Jones. And she references a quote, and I believe she attributed it to her father. And it goes like this. me see if I get it right. I asked life for a penny, only to learn dismayed that any wage I asked of life, life would have paid. There's your quote.
That's good. And third and final question, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Oh, that's easy. I have a mantra in the back of my head all the time, and that mantra is always forward.
Always forward. I love it. So you run into someone in the coffee shop and the Karma thing, they went, like, their kids, all the things we chatted about was awesome. Anything we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners?
Yeah, I think one of the things is being a leader in a company or a leader of any sort of group is the most impactful thing I tell people to say relieve their worries is don't overthink it. You'll take all the fun out of it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Guys, I'm sure you'll want to share this. If you want to reach out to Brian about anything, we'll have all his information. Like I said, his podcast, his stuff will all be in the show notes. So definitely reach out. You can tell he's super approachable. Thank you so much for being on. Guys, let's go out there. Let's change the world one starfish or one person at a time. If we can change one life at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks for being on, Brian.
Angela, you have a beautiful mind, and thank you for putting me on.